indeed a-changing. Now, have you ever looked at an old photo and thought, wow, that person really looked good, only to realize it was you, a younger version of you, so unaware of what was coming next? It's strange how time can make us strangers to ourselves, and yet part of us still longs to go back and say something we didn't get a chance to say. If you had a time-traveling DeLorean, the stainless steel car from the old 80s sci-fi classic Back to the Future, where the main character, Marty McFly, almost erased himself from existence, where would you go? If you could go back to that younger, wide-eyed version of yourself, full of dreams, swagger, and bad decisions, what would you say to them? Would you tell them, go buy some Bitcoin? Get you some Apple stock. Don't flirt with you-know-who. Don't even look in their direction. Girl, just walk on by. Don't hit send on that text. Don't send that email. Would you tell them to stop trying to impress the people who don't matter in your life and won't be a part of your future? Would you tell them to move to Canada? It's too late. They don't want us there anymore. Maybe like Marty, you try to stop that heartbreak, that accident, that dumb choice that rerouted your life. It's quite tempting, isn't it? The idea that we could go back and edit the story, cut the cringe, dodge the shame, rewrite the chapter. But that's the fantasy. Even if we could go back and say the right thing and make the right move, would it fix the mess that we find ourselves in now? Because let's be honest, it doesn't feel like the hilarious Back to the Future script. It feels more like the scary dystopian sequel that none of us asked for. A world where the light has faded, the lines between truth and fiction have twisted, and everything familiar now feels strangely distorted. A time when headlines sound like it's those from an apocalyptic thriller. Imagine, if you will, a school textbook handed to your child saying that their ancestors weren't enslaved, just relocated. Imagine a young girl sitting in a clinic waiting room, unaware that the data from her period tracking app would one day be used against her in court. Where states are encouraging neighbors to snitch or to rat on each other. Teachers risk their careers just for telling the truth. Say the word racism or teach unfiltered history, and you're labeled a threat. Feels like we've traveled back to the 1950s. McCarthyism reborn with all its cruelty and control, cloaked in patriotic language. From pulpits to courtrooms, the line between conscience and criminality is being erased, rewritten, weaponized. And what are our so-called leaders doing about it? Well, they seem to be more concerned with loyalty than liberty. I said they seem to be more concerned with loyalty than liberty. And we all are feeling the cost of that every day. Yet in the middle of all of this, there are people rising up, teachers protecting truth, neighbors defending neighbors, communities finding new ways to care for each other. In places like this community here, people are still daring to tell the truth. daring to care for the least of them, daring to stand together. And yet, my friends, this isn't science fiction. For many, especially marginalized communities, it's survival now. The fear is no longer what if, it is what now. For many, it's about how to stay safe, how to protect those we love in a country consistently failing to deliver on its promise of liberty and justice for all. A government that once was seen as a refuge, a shining city on a hill, as Reagan said, now for so many has become the villain who takes pleasure in doing harm to its people. And our heroes, well, they're exhausted, worn down, numb, so sick of being sick and tired. I wonder if you too have felt that exhaustion, wondering how to keep standing when every headline feels heavier than the last. Think about this. One day, a sermon like this, or a message, a reflection, shall I say, like this, could be enough to get me investigated or even arrested. And if there isn't already a secret government file on you for protesting, donating, or volunteering, there just might be one before long. Not for inciting violence, not for breaking laws, but rather for naming injustice, for telling the truth. If this is our reality, I say, let him come for me. Because history, the future shall bear witness to the truth. I said, history shall bear witness to the truth. Oh, Reverend Randy, you are sounding a little bit bombastic. Things are not that bad. Maybe not for you yet. So what would it mean to keep it cool here at this moment? Not in the past we talk and fantasize about, not in a future that none of us can predict, but now. Right now, in the middle of the chaos, the fear, and the uncertainty. Now, this is the crux of my reflection today. It doesn't mean staying quiet. I'm not telling you to stay quiet or be passive. It means staying grounded while speaking up. Not letting the chaos outside compromise the clarity we have on the inside. It means when all hell is breaking loose around you, you still got your peace. You're just humming along. And that peace begins by letting go of the illusion of control. Now back to the future, it says, your future is exactly what you make it. Well, I can believe that somewhat. But what happens when you do everything right, everything you planned, and it still falls apart? When someone else's fear, someone else's greed, someone else's vote, or someone else's violence knocks you off your timeline, are you still responsible? I say choices matter, but so does context. People in power you've never met, luck, health, when and where you were born, and so on. And so on. Letting go of the illusion of control doesn't mean giving up on responsibility. It means understanding that we're not the only ones shaping the future. And yet what we do still matters. There's a reason why Back to the Future is a classic. It taps into a human craving to redo a moment, to fix what went wrong, and to get it right this time. Maybe that's why we try to give so much advice to the next generation, hoping someone avoids the mistakes that we couldn't. Technical challenges today. But advice, my friends, isn't a time machine. People can only understand, and I want you to really hear this, people can only understand what they are ready to hear. Even you, and even me. Even if we gave our younger selves perfect information, it wouldn't come with the wisdom to apply it. And wisdom, my friends, doesn't arrive all at once. We all know that, correct? It shows up through scraped knees and second tries, through regret and struggle, through heartbreak and through humility. Now let's say I do hop on that DeLorean, and I visit that 25-year-old version of me. I'm gonna be looking so much better than I'm looking right now, but I find him somewhere between tired and tied up, busy doing busy, pretending to have it more together than he actually does, pouring himself into his work, hoping that achievement would somehow equal security, as if striving hard enough could finally make him feel like he's good enough or is enough. Chasing someone else's version of success, trying to be everything to everybody. I'd put my hand on his shoulder and I'd tell him, shut up and sit down. Stop acting like you got it all figured out. You really don't know what you think you know. So take it easy, rest, and reflect. But I know he wouldn't have fully heard me, not because he didn't want to, but because he hadn't lived it yet. You can't skip the steps, my friends. I know this because my 25-year-old daughter reminded me. She said, I appreciate what you're trying to tell me, Dad, but I'm not listening to you. You don't know the world I'm living in like I do. I said, child, please. What do you think you know at 25? But she's right. I can't claim to fully understand what the world feels like today for someone who's 25. It's not the same world I grew up in. But I can tell her. I can tell her that I know what heartbreak feels like, what regret tastes like. I know what it means to doubt yourself. What I can tell her is, baby girl, there is a way through the mess, even if you can't see it yet. When life shakes you and things don't work as you planned, I hope you'll hear my voice reminding you that you are stronger than you know, that you are loved more than you feel, and you never walk alone, and you never walk alone. That's what I want you to carry when I'm no longer here to say it out loud. And that we were not the first to live lives that didn't go as planned. The ancient stories teach us that struggle and redemption is woven into humanity's oldest truths. Take the biblical story, Joseph. Whether we read it as history, myth, or metaphor, it offers a powerful lens on resilience. He was betrayed by those closest to him, cast aside, enslaved, and imprisoned. He had every reason to be bitter, every right to tell his story with himself as the victim. But when he finally faces the very people who wronged him, he didn't seek revenge. He doesn't erase what happened, he reframes it. He chooses a narrative that finds meaning in the pain. Not because it was fair or just, but because he chose to grow from it. What they meant to harm, he used to help himself and others. That's not just faith, that's courage. It's the choice to make meaning out of the suffering and to meet the past not with vengeance, but with vision. Now that's some real soul work. Maybe we don't need the DeLorean. Maybe we need a heart like Joseph that finds meaning in the mess and mercy in the aftermath. Folks, we are not gods of our futures. We're collaborators in a world still unfolding, still becoming. And our job isn't to guarantee the outcome, but to stay faithful anyhow, to love anyhow, to work for justice anyhow, to repair what we didn't break, to plant trees whose shade we may never sit in. So yes, I believe in choice, but I also believe in context. The future isn't a solo project, it's communal, and yes, it is political, but it's also deeply spiritual. And it's going to be shaped by your courage and also by your community. As Dr. Kirk conveyed last week, hope is never ours to carry alone. Take Theodore Parker, 19th century Unitarian minister and abolitionist. He didn't just preach sermons, he preached liberty with passion. He hid escaped enslaved people, spoke truth to power, and didn't care how uncomfortable it made those in the pews. He once said, quote, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one, but from what I can see, I am sure it bends toward justice," end quote. It's a powerful quote. You may have heard Dr. King or President Obama or others quote it, but Parker never lived to see it bend. He died before the Civil War and before emancipation. He spent his life, yet he bent his life, his own life toward the ark. He did it anyhow, though he never saw its full reach in his lifetime. Now contrast that with Clara Barton, a Universalist and founder of the American Red Cross. Not a preacher or church leader, but her life, my friends, was a sermon. She showed up on the Civil War battlefields, tending the wounded, and built systems of care when and where none existed. She founded the American Red Cross at 59 years of age. The same age I am now. That reminds me that it's never too late to build, not too late to change, to serve, to lead, to love more deeply and more courageously. Now, she led the organization well into her 80s. So when I think about my future self 25 years from now, I hope he looks back with Parker's conviction and Barton's compassion. Both believed that the work they did mattered, even if it was unfinished. And I wanted to tell you that the work you do, all your efforts matter. And you may not be able to get to see the results in your lifetime. But what a way to live. And what a legacy that we have the opportunity to shape. What we do matters. And yet, even as I dream of building something lasting, I carry the weight of what I couldn't change. You may have heard me mention before that I lost two brothers. Two separate acts of violence, different years, different circumstances. Same ache, same pain. Sometimes I imagine myself going back and telling them, don't go home yet. Don't open that door. But in the years since they've been gone, I don't spend much time dwelling on the decisions they made in those final moments. That's not where my ache lives. What haunts me is something more quiet, something more ordinary. I don't wish for one more warning. I wish for one more moment. One where I was fully there, not distracted, not rushing, not halfway checked out. One moment where I slowed down enough to see them, to be with them. Because you know how we are with people, physically present, but emotionally elsewhere, caught up in our own worries on our phones, thinking about tomorrow, forgetting that moments are finite. And the people in our lives are too. So if I could go back, I wouldn't try to rewrite the whole story. I'd just sit next to them a little bit longer. Laugh a little harder. Listen a little deeper. And be able to say clearly and without deflection the things that brothers don't always say or feel comfortable to say. I love you, man. You're part of the reason I became who I am today. If I could go back, not with a DeLorean, but with a single breath, I wouldn't waste time trying to be wise. I'd just say and do what mattered. Maybe that's what our future selves are whispering to us. Don't wait. Don't assume they know. Say it. Do it now. Be fully present while you can. Yes, I'm 59 years old. I know I look good for my age. But if I'm lucky, 25 years from now, I'll be 84. Not guaranteed, but possible. And what a gift that would be. But here's the question. Not just what would I say to my 25-year-old self looking back, but what would my 84-year-old self, future self, say to me right now? Time will pass, and I may someday want to talk to the me of this moment. So what would your future self tell you? Will they thank you for staying open-hearted or grieve the way fear made you shut down, grow cynical, or protect yourself at the cost of love? Will they tell you to forgive, just let it go, reach out to someone that you've lost touch with? Or maybe they just say, you don't have to like every moment, just don't miss it. Sometimes the wisest voice isn't behind or even ahead of us. It is already within us, waiting for those quiet moments to be heard. Maybe the real invitation isn't what your past or future selves would say. It's this. Will you listen to the very present higher self within? Maybe the most powerful time travel we can do is deep inside ourselves. It's the kind that asks us to revisit the past with compassion instead of critique, to show up in the present with curiosity instead of control, to shape the future not by chasing perfection, but by living with intention now. We think of time travel as something that bends clocks and rewinds decades, but every time you make peace with a version of yourself that you once rejected, that's time travel too. Every time you choose healing over denial, time travel. Truth over silence, time travel. So I want to invite you into a quick journey through time right now with me with a brief exercise. I'll ask a few questions and give you a few seconds for each to begin reflecting. First, what do you wish your younger self had known? What could have eased their burden? Second, what might your future self want to say to you today? What regrets do they hope you'll avoid? What joys do they hope you'll welcome? Finally, what does this present moment ask of you right now? I encourage you to keep thinking about these questions throughout the week. Revisit them often, or even write the reflections down as letters to yourself and read them occasionally. The most powerful time in the history of our universe is right now. Coincidentally, it is the only moment that is really available to any of us. And the only time machine you really need is your presence. Presence to love someone while they're still here. Presence to forgive even if you'll never get the apology. Presence to live and act graciously and meaningfully, with courage, with compassion, and with clarity, and for the future you are still becoming. The song says, we may not know where it all begins. We may not know where it will all end, but we're certainly better off for all that we let in. May it be so.
And I don't know where it all begins, and I don't know where it all will end. We're better off for all that we let in. One day the stuffies will be withered up and bent. The Father, Son, the Holy Warriors, and the President. The glory days have put up dukes for all the world to see, beaten into submission in the name of the free. We're in an evolution, I have heard it said. Everyone's so busy now, but do we move ahead? The planets hurling and atoms spinning. Consider for your love, you sit there knitting. And I don't know where it all began, and I don't know where it all will end. Better off for all that we let in. See those crosses on the side of the road, tied with ribbons in the meaty hand. They make me grateful I can go this mile. Lay me down and never wake me up again.